Oh, welcome back to the Proshot Hockey Show. For the first time in a while, Cameron Reeser and I are back for another episode. We got lots to talk about today, including our late season predictions for the NHL season, a preview of the NCAA's Frozen Four, and our NHL Draft Top 10 for the upcoming year. So, Cam, welcome back.
Thank you. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has indeed. And you know what? We're going to start probably doing this more consistently when it comes to playoffs. So I'm looking forward to it.
Definitely do need to do this more consistently.
Yeah,
honestly.
it's been a little bit busy for both of us, but we're back here doing this. I'm excited. Let's get it done.
Absolutely.
So over the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about how the NHL season is coming to a close real fast. There's less than a month left in the regular season, and it's looking pretty good for a lot of teams. So we decided that before we started recording this episode, we decided that we were going to do our NHL season predictions for what the final standings are going to look like and for what the playoffs are going to look like. Now, keep in mind, we didn't do points for this, so there won't be so-and-so team didn't finish with this amount of points, just the teams and where they finished in the standings. So I want to get into this, and we'll dissect it as we go. But Cam, why don't you start off with your predictions, and we'll talk about it from there.
All right, so I'm going to start off with the Central. So my standings from worst to best, I say Chicago will finish last. I think that's not changing anytime soon. Just lost Patrick Kane. They lost Sam Lafferty. They lost a lot of players. Jake McCabe as well. I mean, their team, they're just going into a rebuild. They're pretty much tanking for Bedard at this point. It's safe to say. In seventh place, I have the Arizona Coyotes for pretty much the same reason. They're pretty much in a long rebuild right now.
They're toast.
But yeah, absolutely, they're toast. And plus, they're playing in an arena with 5,000 people. So
that's a whole other story.
Yeah, it's a whole other story. Absolutely. Number 6 here, I've got the St. Louis Blues. Pretty much big sellers at the trade deadline. Obviously, losing Vladimir Tarasenko. The big piece, Ryan O'Reilly, Nola Chari, list goes on for them. They're heading into a kind of a retooling. I wouldn't say like a rebuild, but kind of a retooling. Fifth place here, I have the Nashville Predators. Same reason. I mean, they didn't make like a lot of moves. They made the Ekholm move, which was probably the big one. Got Tyson Berry back. Big power play specialist. He's going to help them a lot for the future. Also, they traded away Nino Niederreiter. He's been gelling really well in Winnipeg. And that is a great segue to my number 4 team, the Winnipeg Jets. Josh Morrissey. Career year. I did not expect him to play this well. Nobody did. It's like second in points right now for defensemen right now.
Yeah, as of this morning, I think he's in either second or third, which is the last time that we saw Morrissey have a season that was that good was the 2017-18 season, I believe. No, the 2018-19 season. That was the year that Vegas came into the league.
Yeah,
and
I think he had 40 points, something like that.
It was some crazy.
Right, he's got 70 or something right now. It's absolutely unbelievable.
It was some crazy number.
He blossomed into a top 2 defenseman, and I love to see it.
No, exactly. And see, he's in the top. He's in the top 30 in points.
That's insane.
He's in the top 30 in the league in points right now.
That is absolutely, honestly, that's astonishing.
The only other player, the only other NHL defenseman that has more points than him right now is Erik Karlsson. And he's got 85. Josh Morrissey's got 69 points. Erik Karlsson's got 85.
Wow. And Erik Karlsson, man, what a career resurrection he's had.
Oh, it's insane.
Man, it's absolutely remarkable. Moving on to my third place team here, I have the Minnesota Wild. Obviously, the big elephant in the room is Kaprizov. Now, obviously, if you guys don't know, he got injured in a game against the Winnipeg Jets, and it was, I believe, it was like a Logan Stanley when he like he he toppled on him, and he Kaprizov did the splits, and I guess what happened was he was it like a groin injury? It was like a leg injury.
Yeah, it was. All I know is that it's not good. He is
No.
likely not going to be back till the playoffs. I know
Yeah,
when
and
they
that's
originally said that he was injured, he was going to be out for 3 to 4 weeks, and I think we're only about a week in, so he's still about 3 weeks away from returning.
yeah, that is
It's
a
not looking good.
massively huge blow for a Minnesota Wild team who's like I believe in second right now in the Central, and I don't think it's going to get any easier for them because Kaprizov pretty much honestly he develops a lot of their offensive chances
Oh
and
yeah,
high scoring chances. But I mean, I think they could still squeak into the playoffs, and the way Philip Gustafson's been playing the season and taken over as that starting goalie has been remarkable. And they also have Jesper Wallstedt as well in the system as well. Like their goaltending, perfect for the future, and they're going to be really good. Second place here, I have the Dallas Stars. Now, Dallas right now is really high in the standings right now in the Central. I think they have like a 10-point lead over the Minnesota Wild right now, something like
I think
that.
it's a lot closer. I think they're within 2 or 3 points of each other now.
Oh, I didn't even realize that. So yeah, so I think Dallas here is gonna. I think they're gonna fall. I really can't see them winning that division because just based on the way they've been playing recently and the way Ottinger's been playing recently, it's not really looking great for them. So that's my reasoning behind that. And then the first place, I have the Colorado Avalanche. Um, Same reason. I mean, they've been McKinnon's been heating up recently. Rantanen has been heating up. I think they're on like probably like a 10-game point streak for both of them. Makar's been heating up. That team's been gelling really well. Georgiev's found his game, and it's yeah, that's what I think is going to happen in the Central. Plus, the big thing here, they're doing this without Gabriel Landeskog. Now, Landeskog, he was projected to come back this month actually, but the issue is he's not really in that mental state, and his knee is not working the way it's supposed to. So
Yeah,
it's kind of a weird situation. I think he's probably shut down for the season, but I think he'll be back in the playoffs.
quite a bit of a setback, and it's unfortunate for him because I know that he was looking forward to returning, and I know a lot of Avalanche fans were looking forward to him returning. I myself am a big Gabriel Landeskog fan, so it's really really disappointing to see him, obviously set back like that. But it's like you mentioned, they're doing really well without him because
Absolutely, they are.
you've got Devon Taves and Cale Makar holding it down on the blue line. Okay. Alex Georgiev has been doing really well in that net. And then you got that first line of McKinnon, Rantanen, and Burakovsky, or not Burakovsky.
It's Nichushkin.
Nichushkin,
Yeah.
who are doing
Nichushkin
incredible.
has blossomed as well. You look at the season he had last year and look at the playoffs he had. He was incredible, and now he's having a career year right now. He's been but I mean, he's had his injury woes as well this year. He had like a broken ankle, I believe. He was out for like 8 weeks or something like that, and
Yeah.
that really derailed his momentum. But I think Colorado will kick it up a notch, and I think they'll get the first place in that division.
Easily.
As now we move on to the Pacific Division. This is a really tough division to predict. There's been a lot of surprises this year. especially the big surprise. I think the biggest surprise in that Pacific Division is the Seattle Kraken. They've been immensely good.
Somehow they've managed to just defy all expectations. Everybody thought they were going to be the worst team in the league this year, and they came back and just said, nope.
Everybody expected them to be at the bottom of the barrel.
Yep.
Everybody expected them to be there. But as for my predictions, I'm not going to try to go too in depth here because we kind of got a schedule here. So, in 8th place here, we got the San Jose Sharks. Really don't think they're really doing anything. They're just in a really. I think they're in for a really long and cruel rebuild. But you know what? You got to do that. Honestly, sometimes that happens to the best teams. You see, it's going to happen with Pittsburgh. It's going to happen with Washington. It's going to happen with a bunch of teams that you have seen in the top for years and years and years. And it happens. It happens. So, yeah, it does happen. And San Jose has been a top team in the NHL for the last decade and a half.
They've been a pretty dominant team, and it's rare to see them go through a rebuild, but every team's got to do it. So I think that this is going to be a tough season for them. It's going to be a hard pill to swallow. But after trading off Timo Meier, they've got some work to do. They've got some serious work to do.
Absolutely. And Mike Greer at the helm, I think he's doing great things there, and I think he's going to continue to do great things. Maybe Connor Bedard?
Possibly.
Who knows? Honestly, I would love to see him in a San Jose jersey, but that's a topic for another segment in the show. At number 7 here, I've got the Anaheim Ducks. Same reason, rebuild. Yeah. Number 6 here, we got the Vancouver Canucks, and they've been actually red hot lately. They've won their last 8 games,
which is kind of crazy to think, because at the beginning of the season, if you would have told me that Vancouver was going on an 8-game winning streak, I would have just laughed in your face. This team was in no position to win any games. A dysfunctional locker room. There was the whole scandal about their ownership coming out. That, the management made mistakes. The whole saga with Bruce Boudreau. It was just a huge, huge mess.
And it's really. And I think the loss of Bo Horvat actually honestly motivated them. I really think, but I still think it's a big loss. Yes, but there's been one player that's really stood out to me like this whole year for Vancouver. It's Andrei Kuzmenko.
Yeah,
he's been there. Honestly, I'm saying it right now. He's been the Canucks' best player this year.
I agree with that.
And nobody, honestly, I did not expect him to do this good.
That's what happens, though, when you bring in a player who's experienced and has that much experience, especially from the KHL. You bring him over to North America and you let him play his game. That's exactly what's going to happen. But for him to be developing that well, I didn't expect that.
Honestly, he's becoming like a top 100 player in the NHL right now.
Yeah,
I wouldn't even be surprised to see him in that top 100 list in September. I really wouldn't be surprised.
Yep.
Absolutely. I would not be. At number 5 here, we've got the Calgary Flames. Now, Calgary, I really don't like their team right now.
It's disappointing.
Jacob Markstrom has been absolutely abysmal, to say the least. And that team is just an absolute shambles. I think the loss of not just Gaudreau. Gaudreau, I think, honestly, wasn't like the big loss that they had. I think it was Matthew Tkachuk that was honestly the big loss for them. And you look at Jonathan Huberdeau this season and compared to last season, invisible. Absolutely invisible. And it sucks to see that because, you go from 115 points to something like 60 points. not really doing it. And he signed that huge contract extension. What was it, like 10.8 million?
Oh, yeah. It was a huge one with Florida. Yep.
Oh, that contract is not looking good right now.
Not at all.
But at number 4 here for the Pacific Division, I had we just mentioned them a little while ago, the Seattle Kraken. They've been surprising to say the least. Vince Dunn has turned into a top 2 defenseman. He's, I believe, 5th in defenseman points. He's been incredible this year. Martin Jones found his game. Matty Beniers having a good rookie season. Obviously, there's been a lot of things happening for them. Jared McCann having another good career year. I think they're gonna make the playoffs. I think they're gonna do. Honestly, I think they could honestly surprise a lot of people.
Oh, I agree with that. And I think that so far, I want to mention too that our standings have been almost the exact same, except where you have Seattle at number 4. I've got Edmonton at number 4 and Seattle at number 2.
Yeah.
From what Seattle has done this year, they defied all expectations. It's like you were saying before, bottom of the barrel team. Nobody thought anything of them. They just decided to pick up the speed and just play the way that they play. And look what happened. Grubauer's having a career year. Martin Jones is playing really good. It's just insane. This team, Absolutely. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, and this is like their second year. We saw it with Vegas in their first year. They made the Stanley Cup Finals.
The team with terrible asset management. Fun fact about Vegas, and we'll get to them. But fun fact about Vegas, all of their first round picks since they came into the league, every player that they picked with their first round pick is now gone off that team.
That is very true.
They don't have a single one. Ironic. Terrible asset management.
I don't even know what they're doing over there. But yeah, it's terrible. It's not what you want to see. Like look at Nick Suzuki, for example. They traded for Max Pacioretty for him.
Yep.
And oh man, if Vegas fans would want to go back in time to a certain point, it would be that point. Because if they kept Nick Suzuki, his team would be absolutely even much better. They probably still have Jack Eichel in their works. They would still have, I don't know. But I mean, honestly, the big kicker here, they don't have Logan Thompson right now.
No, he's out.
He is out. And you know who else is also out that hasn't even played this year? Robin Lehner.
Yeah, so both their goalies are out. I think Aiden Hill and Jonathan Quick are their goalies right now.
It is, yes. And Laurent Brossoit actually just got sent down.
Yep.
So, I mean, their goalies are good.
They got a log jam on goalies, man. They're either going to get rid of Thompson or Lehner in this offseason. I guarantee that.
Honestly, I'm going to say it right now. If Vegas gets rid of Thompson, that's the wrong move.
Yep. And you know what? Thompson, Robin Lehner's a good goalie, but he's injury prone, man.
I think, honestly, his time is, I think his time's done.
Yeah. And we shall see. But let's continue on here with your Pacific Division.
Absolutely. Number 3, the Edmonton Oilers. The Edmonton Oilers, I have at number 3. Connor McDavid is just Connor McDavid. I think he's gonna have like over 150 points, but I don't know how many points he's gonna have. Like I think he just broke the modern NHL record for the most points in the season. He passed Nikita Kucherov, I believe, wasn't it?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he's.
And see, the thing that drives me crazy about McDavid is the fact that he's got 134 points and I think like 69 or so games.
That's
like, how crazy is that? He's played 60. Yeah. He's played 69 games.
He's so good. He is so good.
Yeah, and he's got 134. Like he's just that good.
He is. He's the best. Gretzky said it himself. Gretzky said this himself, and I believe in like 2015, he said the best player to come into the league in 30 years.
Yep, I agree, and that's since he was there.
And
by the way,
there's been lots of players too: Crosby, Lemieux, Ovechkin. Lots of players have come into the league. There's just nobody that's been more dominant than Connor McDavid.
That's the truth.
Absolutely nobody that's been more dominant.
And we've seen what he can do in the playoffs. Like, that's no exception.
Had like what, almost 40 points last year in the playoffs?
Insane. So you've got Edmonton at number 3, LA at number 2.
Number 2, I have the LA Kings. Yes. I honestly think LA could honestly even. I would not be surprised if LA takes the division. They've been really good. Adrian Kempe has been probably the player that has stood out to me the most. He's on pace for, I believe, 42 goals or something like that. I want to actually check this out. I'm going to actually check this
And
out.
you can't forget the backbone of that team. Drew Doughty's had a career resurgence. I think Anze Kopitar's been solid. They've been doing really well.
Oh, no, my bad. Adrian Kempe's on pace for 37. Honestly, the way he's been playing recently, I think he could get 40.
Oh, without a doubt.
I honestly think he could get 40. I really do think that Adrian Kempe could get 40 goals this year.
I think he could too. And that would be a huge, huge thing for the Kings.
Absolutely. And honestly, I think, and I'm going to say this right now, and I'm saying this with a full head of steam and a full head of confidence, Adrian Kempe is one of the most underrated players in the entire NHL.
Easily.
He's criminally underrated. The way that guy, he just scores like nobody's business. He's a pure sniper. Pure sniper. You can see it in the stats. I mean, he's got more goals than assists. Like 35 goals, 19 assists last year, 32 goals, 20 assists this year. And he's your typical sniper. And yeah, so that's what I have for that. At number 1, the Vegas Golden Knights. I still think Vegas will finish first, but the question is, do I think they can contain it? Honestly, no, but I think they will contain it. Will contain that first place spot. But I think LA's definitely got a good chance of catching them. Just the way they've been playing recently. Vegas, I'm actually gonna check this right now. So LA in their last 10 games, 7-1-2 in their last 10. And then Vegas 7-3 in their last 10.
Unreal.
So it's a pretty close race. Yeah. So they're actually tied in points right now. 90 points for Vegas, 90 points for the Kings. It's very close right now.
Unbelievable.
Very close. Yeah. Vegas have 69 games and the Kings have 70. But I do think Vegas will squeak it out and take that top spot. Now we're going to move on to the East.
Yep. No. My
wild card teams for the Western Conference.
Yeah, that's right.
Obviously, I think Seattle will be the first wild card team. And then I think it will be the Winnipeg Jets. That's my wild card team. So Seattle gets the first wild card, and then Winnipeg gets the second.
And then my 2 wild card teams, I'm going to, since our standings were almost exactly the same, there's just very few differences. I think my first wild card team is going to be Edmonton, and my second wild card team is going to be Winnipeg.
For those of you that didn't know, so Tyler's predictions here, pretty much the same. Like 8, 7, 6, 5, and 4 are pretty much the same. Just the top 3 is different. He has Colorado in third, Minnesota in second, and he thinks Dallas will still be first. But Tyler, what's your reasonings behind that?
See, there are a couple of different reasons why I think that Dallas is going to finish number 1. I think Colorado in recent games, they have been solid, but I just don't think that they're going to be able to catch up to Dallas. You saw what they were able to do last night, right? They had a 2-0 lead against Calgary. They lost the lead. They came back, and they ended up winning in overtime thanks to Jason Robertson. Filthy goal, by the way. And they just looked a lot more powerful, so I think it's going to be Dallas pulling ahead. I don't think Colorado's going to be able to catch up to them. That's just me. And then Minnesota, I think they're going to finish ahead of Colorado too. And see, the reason why I say that is because Colorado is one of those teams that it doesn't matter where they are in the standings, they will make an impact in the playoffs. So this particular situation, I think that Minnesota and Colorado are going to tie for second place. And that's just going to be that. But yeah. I think, and then again, I explained it earlier with Seattle why they're finishing over LA. They're just too good. Despite the fact that LA has been really, really on fire recently, Seattle's on a 6-game winning streak. And if they keep that up.
They actually just lost last night.
Oh, yeah. No, you're right, actually. But if they can keep winning, they're going to finish ahead of LA. No problem. No problem.
I wouldn't even bet on it. And then for his Pacific division, pretty much the same. Just the top 4 is different. He has Edmonton in 4th, LA in 3rd, Seattle in 2nd, and Vegas in 1st.
For pretty much the same reasons.
So pretty much the same, yes. So, and then his wild card, Edmonton and Winnipeg. So now we transition to the Eastern Conference. This is the big one. I bet you everybody here has been waiting. So we'll start off with the Metro first. I think that's what everybody wants us to start off with. In last place, me and Tyler, I believe we both have Columbus finishing last. We do.
Yes, and
Columbus finishing last.
Funny enough, the only change in our standings is that you think Pittsburgh's going to finish higher, and I think the Islanders are going to finish higher.
That is true. Yes.
So Philly in 7th.
Philly in 7th.
It's no secret that the Flyers have been god awful this year. Like, this is historically bad.
25, 32, and 12.
Like, it's historically bad.
Yeah. Even the Jackets have been historically bad. 21, 40, and 7.
The last time they were that bad was the 2016-17 season. And even they weren't that bad.
No, absolutely not.
So, and then the 6th place team, the Washington Capitals.
Both of our 6th place teams, yes.
The Washington Capitals. Now, see, the Capitals surprised everybody. They were sellers at the deadline. They just, for somebody who says that they're going to try and contend as much as possible, that they're going to try and help Ovi get to the Gretzky record, because at this point, that's what they're doing. They're not in any position to contend. They're not in any position to win. They just want to see Ovi hit that record and be able to break Gretzky's record and become the greatest goal scorer of all time. They are sellers, pure sellers this season. There's no playoffs for them.
No. In 5th place for me and Tyler, I have the New York Islanders, and Tyler Raines here has the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Now I'll explain my reasoning. So you put the Islanders a little bit lower. I put the Penguins a little bit lower. The reason being is because this Islanders team, especially in recent games, they've shown that they're heating up. I think Matt Barzal's been solid. Semyon Varlamov's having an amazing season, despite what the numbers say. He may not be a top 10 goalie in the league right now, but he has had a really, really good stretch of games. Plus, this team is gelling together. They were struggling early season, but they've really started to pick it up. And I think that if they keep this going, they're going to be able to finish ahead of Pittsburgh. Where on the other hand, Pittsburgh's been really struggling. Obviously with Chris Letang being out for so long, Crosby was out for a while, and then Malkin, of course, we knew that he wasn't going to be back until, halfway through the season, which he ended up coming back. But this Penguins team is a lot older, and I don't think that they can keep up with a younger team like the Islanders.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And honestly, I would say right now, probably my Vezina trophy favorite right now probably is Ilya Sorokin.
Oh, yeah.
Sorokin has been absolutely lights out for that team.
Sorokin's been the better goalie out of the two of him and Varlamov for sure. But yes. Varlamov still, he hasn't had, like I said, it hasn't been a top 10 season for him, but he's still had a really good comeback year.
He's been a good backup.
Yeah,
to say the least.
Absolutely. And that's what I think is really helping them win games, is the fact that he's the backup. Sorokin, it goes without saying, Ilya Sorokin is their starter through and through. But Varlamov easily 100% is a top 10 backup in the league.
Now, I have Pittsburgh in 4th and the Islanders in 5th. My reasoning is you can't ever count out Sidney Crosby. You can't ever count out somebody like Jake Gensel. I mean, he's an underrated player. I think that team can honestly gel it together. I think that team can work together. And honestly, I think they could finish over the New York Islanders. Now, yes, the New York Islanders have been playing absolutely great lately. 2-game winning streak. Pittsburgh on a 3-game losing streak. But honestly, I do think that Pittsburgh is still the Pittsburgh team. Despite, all the injuries, of course, like you mentioned. But I do think that they will finish over them. I think the veteranship is going to... Honestly, I think Crosby can honestly kick the tires on this team, and they can get their heads out of their bums, and they can just do it, honestly. I think they can.
And now we move on to the third place team, which is the New York Rangers.
Both of us have the Rangers at number 3.
You know what? When it comes to the Rangers, they're a good team, but they're not touching Carolina or New Jersey. Like, it doesn't. They added Patrick Kane, right? That's a huge piece to add to their top 6.
It's safe to say Patrick Kane has, I'm going to say it, has not worked in New York.
No, I'm going to be flat out. I've been looking at the standings every single time that the Rangers have a game. I've been looking at the game results and who scored or whatever. The past 5 games, Kane has only had 1 assist.
Yeah, that's
he has not been on the score sheet. He hasn't really taken penalties. He's been pretty invisible out there. He's not really a huge factor. I think when they get into the playoffs, he will be. But for right now, what's the point?
People were saying, like, oh, this is going to be a great move. This is going to be a great move. He's going to be playing with Artemi Panarin. He's going to be back to the old Kane that we all know and love. Hasn't been like that. He's been honestly very invisible.
And the lucky thing for the Rangers is they didn't give up much. So it's a kind of a low risk trade, but it's not really looking good for a guy who's a superstar in the league.
Absolutely. It's really not. And honestly, Vladimir Tarasenko has been playing better than him.
Oh, 100%. He's scoring every game. Him and Panarin are on the same line. They're scoring every game.
Absolutely. And look at Artemi Panarin. He's been top 10 player in the league.
Popping off. So the Rangers are in 3rd. We both have the Hurricanes at 2nd. That goes without saying. Everybody knows how dominant they are. Freddie Anderson's returning to his form. Slowly but surely, he's getting there. And then New Jersey. Wow. They went out and got Vitek Vanacek. And they just completely overhauled the team.
The big one for the New Jersey Devils here, Timo Meier. He's really shaped that team up. But I think what's going to kill Carolina in the long run is obviously the injuries.
Yeah.
They obviously just lost
Andrei Svechnikov for the rest of the season, potentially the playoffs.
And they've actually lost him for the playoffs, too. He actually tore his ACL, and he's out for the season and the playoffs,
which
the whole
sucks.
entire playoffs. That is a huge blow. And he's been honestly one of their best players this year. And it sucks to see him go down like that. You hate to see a top player on your team go down like that. And it sucks. I think that's what's going to really derail their momentum. And honestly, Freddie's been getting injured a lot too. It's not looking good for them. I really don't like their chances right now. They're very badly injury riddled. Max Pacioretty, obviously the big one as well, just came back from a torn Achilles, tears the same Achilles as well. I was actually talking about this with my brother, but my brother said this: Pacioretty should honestly sue that doctor, because honestly, like if they were saying he was 100%, clearly he was not.
No, and I saw that his first game back. He definitely wasn't.
No, he was. He did not look like he was 100% at all. He looked probably like 55, 60% at best.
Mm-hmm.
He looked absolutely invisible. He was not skating well. He was skating very slow, very gingerly. He did not look good.
Not at all.
I'm gonna say it right now. I really hate to say this. I think this is the end of the road for Pacioretty.
It could potentially be if he. You know what? I would usually say if he suffers any more injuries like this, but no, he's had a history of injuries through his career, and this one's no exception.
Obviously, the big one in 2011, he broke his neck.
Yep.
From that
the Zdeno Chara.
The Zdeno Chara thing. Yeah. Broke his neck.
But
like he's had terrible luck. But I think this is the end of the road for Pacioretty. I mean, 2 torn Achilles. That is a terrible injury to come back from, too.
Yeah, no kidding.
That is one of the, I think they said in sports, that's one of the toughest injuries to come back from is the Achilles injury.
Yep.
Because that could damage your whole entire ankle, the way you walk, the way you live life. Like, like it happened to me. So happened to my brother.
Yep.
It could happen to anybody.
And
yeah.
So Carolina might be at a disadvantage in terms of injuries. Now the Atlantic we have the exact same standings except for the number 4 spot.
And we're gonna dive right into it. Last place, it's pretty obvious. Montreal.
It's not even close.
What are you doing? You let up 7 goals in the first period.
Against Florida, nonetheless.
What are you doing? Oh my goodness. If I was a Montreal Canadiens fan, I would have burned my jersey right then and there.
Easily. Now,
Mike,
there's a bit of a change here for me. I originally had Buffalo at number 7, but I think I'm going to put Detroit at number 7 as well, because they have shown flashes of brilliance, but I don't think they're anywhere close to making the playoffs yet.
Yeah, so they both have the same number 8 and 7.
Yep.
Yeah.
They were
number 6.
Yeah. They were one of the best teams earlier in the season, and then they dropped down to being the worst.
So number 6 for me, I believe it's number 6 for you as well.
Yep.
Is the Buffalo Sabres.
Yes. Yep.
And I honestly, Buffalo has had terrible luck. They're just in a terrible division. They are in the division of death.
And the only thing that's going for them right now is the goat head jerseys. That's it.
And Tage Thompson.
And Tage Thompson. Can't forget about Tage.
Can't forget about Tage Thompson. Guys have an absolutely remarkable year.
But it's at the end of the day, it's Buffalo. You know, they haven't played spectacular, and that's just that. Number 5, Florida.
Before we move on to number 5 here, I just gotta say, like, Tage Thompson, man, this guy came out of absolutely nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. Like, I mean, like he's on pace to have 51 goals this year, 105 points. He's got 87 points in 68 games.
Oh, it's been crazy.
If you were to tell me like 2 years ago that Tage Thompson would be a top 10 player in the league, I'd laugh in your face and say that you're an idiot. But no, if I'm the real there, Tage Thompson's an absolute beast. Deservedly so, he's a top 10 player in the league. Deservedly so.
Oh, 100%.
But moving on here to number 5, the Florida Panthers. Yes.
Enough said about Florida. Like they've struggled.
Absolutely disappointing this year. They've been disappointing. Matthew Tkachuk has been absolutely unreal. That's about it. Obviously, the big thing was, I want to say was obviously Spencer Knight going down.
Yeah, you know what? And it's unfortunate that what happened to Spencer Knight, because the problem with him is he went into the NHL's player assistance program. It's most likely mental health related. I'm not going to speculate or anything like that. So that was a huge blow to them. Bobrovsky struggled, and it seems like Matthew Tkachuk and Alexander Barkov are really carrying that team. So Florida, 5th.
In 4th place for Reigns. Actually, I had Ottawa finishing 5th, I believe. I want to say, but no, for Reigns 4th place, he has the Ottawa Senators, and I have the Senators finishing 5th.
Now,
so what's your reasoning behind
especially the game last night. You watched the highlights between Toronto and Ottawa last night, and this team is no quit. They have proven that they're ready for anything. Though they're not going to be in the playoffs this year, next season they're going to be scary. You've got Brady Tkachuk, Jacob Chychrun, Mads Sogard is an up-and-coming goalie, Philip Gustafsson. They've got Cam Talbot. This team is ready for a serious playoff run, but this team's no quit. I think you put them in any other division, they'd be first place.
Absolutely,
hands down.
And I absolutely agree with that. I mean, you've got players like Alex DeBrincat. I mean, he's on pace for another 40-goal year. Tim Stützle has been absolutely remarkable. Been probably their best player this year.
Oh, yeah.
Bar none. I mean, that team's been very surprising. At number 3, of course,
possibly the most hated team in the NHL.
The Tampa Bay Lightning.
And it all stems back from that, what people are calling the quote-unquote illegitimate win, where they were $18 million over the salary cap. I just want to point out, they didn't do anything wrong. It was within the rules, and they did what they had to do.
Absolutely. And honestly, Brandon Hagel has been, he's been very good. Braden Point as well. And honestly, Victor Hedman has been taking a massive step back, and it really just sucks.
Yeah,
that happened. He's had a lot of injuries this year. But Nikita Kucherov putting up another incredible season. He's gonna have another 100+ point season. It's nobody's business, of course. Steven Stamkos is still doing Steven Stamkos things. Andre Vasilevsky has really struggled.
Oh, yeah.
He has severely struggled. And it just sucks that he has struggled like that. But I mean, like, this is supposed to be one of the best goalies in the league.
And yet, yeah, he's
honestly, he has not been.
He's been a far cry from it, and it sucks.
It does absolutely suck. And it does absolutely suck. Moving into number 2.
I think everybody knows this is going to be the one that we were excited about.
It's Toronto Maple Leafs.
And I will say this until the day that I die. This team is going to have a breakthrough year, and it's going to be either this year or next year.
Yeah. I mean, what the Leafs have done in, like, the trade deadline, at least.
There's no reason why they shouldn't win the Cup this year. And I know I'm probably going to sound like a delusional Leafs fan here saying this, but you went out and you picked up Ryan O'Reilly, Jake McCabe, you brought back Luke Shen, you brought in Sam Lafferty. Like, there are so many names on this roster. Your goaltending is still pretty decent. Matt Murray's been meh. Samsonov's been incredible. This team has shown that they can do what everybody is saying that they can't. And that's win games.
Yeah. That is true. They have won a lot of games. And my only concern with this team, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. Justin Hall cannot play in the playoffs.
Look, I don't want to sound like I'm absolutely thrashing on the guy, but I'm going to be as brutally honest as I can be. Justin Hall is not an NHL defenseman.
He's not.
He's a non-option. This is reminding me of, and I feel awful for all of the times that we crapped on him when he was playing for Toronto. This reminds me of Jake Gardiner. Because
he really does.
Justin Hall is one of those guys that he looked good in his earlier years of his career, like 2-3 years ago. He doesn't look good now. He turns over the puck too much, is constantly making mistakes in his own end, costing them penalties. There's been a couple of games where he's just tossed up the game-winning goal. He's a non-option. I put Liljegren in there. Justin Hall is just he's got to be scratched for the playoffs.
Yeah, and the fact that Eric Gustafsson was scratched last night, really
come
like
on.
that. Did not like that.
And it's not the fact that we're trying to purposefully go out of our way and say that Justin Hall's garbage, but he's not good anymore. I think this year he's a free agent at the end of the year, if I'm not mistaken. So I think it's time to let him walk. He's not doing anything really good for this team.
He's not. He's really not. And it pains me to say that because Justin Hall, I mean, yes, he can provide good defense, but the problem is that he turns over the puck too much. He takes way too many penalties.
I was having a debate about this with one of my coworkers, and he's saying, "Oh, but Justin Hall is one of the top 10 defensemen in the league that plays more minutes, and he's good even strength." Numbers in this case do not matter because you could be the best defenseman. Take Erik Karlsson when he first joined San Jose. Okay, didn't matter how good he was analytically, statistically, whatever. He was coughing up the puck. He was costing them scoring chances. He was giving up game-winning goals in overtime. That's what Justin Hall is doing. So anybody who says that, the numbers matter in Justin Hall's case, they don't. Drop it. What matters is how he plays when he's in the lineup on any given night. And it's not been good. So Justin Hall, not an option.
No. And, of course, the number one team in the NHL. Everybody's most hated team. Every Leafs fan's most hated team. The Boston Bruins. But for real, on the real here, the Boston Bruins have been having an historic year.
And look, as much as we still carry those scars whenever we hear their name, Boston's a good team. And they have, without a doubt, been the best team in the league. It's easy to see that. Doesn't matter who they're up against. They have become the most dominant force in the league over the past couple of seasons, and especially this year. Linus Ullmark has been playing insane. Charlie McAvoy's been out of his mind. David Krejci's been looking really good after he came back. It doesn't matter. They
obviously the big thing. David Pastrnak has been having a career year,
signing that huge extension too.
Yeah,
it's just insane.
And here's everybody that thought David Pastrnak was going to walk. That wasn't the case. And honestly, I think that was probably the best decision that he's ever made.
Oh, 100%. And you have to think, though, too, this Bruins team, this is potentially their last year to win a Stanley Cup with this core before they have to start thinking about, okay, are we going to rebuild? So they went into that mentality beginning of the season, and they were just like, you know what? This is our last chance. We need to do this. And they did. And so far, they're looking like pretty big Stanley Cup favorites. Now, personally, I would hate to see them win the cup, but it's a real possibility.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Now, those were our season predictions. We're going to do a separate episode on our playoff predictions because this one already is kind of running a little long. But we are going to do a separate one for our season predictions. I want to quickly talk about the NCAA's Frozen Four because this is a huge, huge tournament. Everybody knows the Memorial Cup tournament in the CHL. That's just, the biggest thing in Canada. The Frozen Four is basically the equivalent of the Memorial Cup. So with that being said, there's a lot that we can break down here in terms of how these teams are going to do, who's where. And I think right now it's pretty obvious that there are a lot, and I mean a lot, of really quality prospects on these rosters. So what we're going to do is the playoff matchups haven't been confirmed yet, but there's obviously a couple of teams that we are looking at that are really looking good. The two teams for me that I'm looking at is Minnesota, the Golden Gophers. Obviously, they've got that super, super stacked team. Jackson Lacombe, Matthew Nyes, Brock Faber. They've got a lot of really, really good names on that roster. Not to mention they've also got the Middlestat brothers, who have been insane this season. There's a reason why they're first in the world.
And even the probably one of the favorites to win the Hobey Baker Award, Logan Cooley.
Yes.
Logan Cooley has been absolutely incredible. And, I'm going to say this, honestly, the Arizona Coyotes are looking like absolute bandits. And the reason why I say this, me and Tyler were watching the draft and we were saying, what are you doing? Why are you not choosing Shane Wright? What are you doing? And you know what? Honestly, I've actually come to grow to like Logan Cooley's game.
Yeah, we weren't sure how he was going to be in the beginning, but he's really looked good. So Minnesota,
honestly, right now, my early pick right now to say like for the best player in the 2022 draft. No disrespect to Shane Wright. Shane Wright is going to be an absolutely incredible player, but for me, I think Logan Cooley takes that top spot right now.
Oh yeah, 100%.
120% right now.
That Minnesota team is very, very stacked. Okay.
Absolutely.
So the other team that I was looking at personally is Michigan. And You're probably thinking, oh yeah, well it's Michigan. No duh. Rucker McGroarty, Eric Portillo, Gavin Brindley, Maki Samoskevich, Adam Fantilli, Luca Fantilli, Seamus Casey. Just to name a few of the players on how stacked that roster is. Can't forget Luke Hughes.
Can't forget Luke Hughes. No.
If you don't consider them as a top 5 favorite to win the tournament, I think you need to watch the way that they play and who they've got on their team.
Exactly. Adam Fantilli, most points in the NCAA this year. And he's a freshman.
Easily the best.
6 points. That is remarkable. I think he broke the single season record for a freshman.
That's crazy.
That's remarkable. This draft, we're going to get into the draft, But this draft is looking incredible. You've got so many prospects, so many possible generational talents.
It's insane. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
But
And
that's
then
just how
another team,
stacked that Michigan team is. Now, I know that you had a couple of teams that you were looking at as well. So let's talk about the teams that you were looking at.
other two teams here that I'm looking at, obviously the big one, obviously University of Denver. That team's been really good too. They've got loads and loads of players on there, like players like Sean Behrens, Colorado prospect. Oh no, they don't have Taylor McCarr. I was thinking of somebody else, but no, I was thinking of Cale McCarr for some reason because the Colorado. That's what got me confused.
Yes,
but no, University of Denver has a lot of players. Shai William, the
Red Wings prospect.
Tristan Brooks, Jack Devin, Rieger Lorenz, even the big one. Honestly, the big player that's really stood out to me this year, Carter Mazer. That guy has been incredible this year.
This team is just 50, another one.
He's got like over 50 points or something like that.
This team's another one that's going to be able to pull an upset.
I really think they could. And then the last team, they don't really have a lot of players, but honestly, this team I think could surprise a lot of people just because of the way they are coached. Is Quinnipiac. They've been a top team in NCAA for like the last half a decade, over a decade now. And I think they could surprise a lot of people. I really think they could. But it really depends. Their best player right now is Colin Graff. I think he's like one of the favorites right now for he's second in the NCAA in points. Colin Graff. And he's got 55 points in 37 games.
Which is just crazy.
And it's actually really crazy to think that he's not even signed to an NHL team. He's unsigned. He wasn't even drafted. I think this guy's gonna get some interest. I really think he is.
I don't disagree.
After the season he's been having this year, he's gonna get some interest from NHL teams.
And now, with that being said, now that we've determined our favorites, another one in the NCAA is the award for best player, right? Which is the Hobey Baker Award. Now, there's three names that come to mind off the top of my head that are potential finalists for it. I think Logan Cooley, Adam Fantilli, and Sean Farrell. Those are definitely three that are going to be finalists for the Hobey Baker.
Absolutely. You could probably add Colin Graff into there.
Yep.
Into that conversation.
I think Matthew Nyes is another one too.
Matthew Nyes, yes. Matthew Nyes. He's been incredible this year for University of Minnesota.
And one name that comes to mind though too, sorry to cut you off. Another name that comes to mind too that you can't forget is Devin Levi.
Absolutely not. And obviously Devin Levi just signed his ELC just a couple days ago with the Buffalo Sabres. I think that's a huge ad for the Sabres. They actually got a tandem now of UPL, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, and now Devin Levi. You add him to the mix.
Insane.
In there. But I think he's going to be sent to the AHL. I don't think he's going to go straight to the NHL. They still got Craig Anderson in there. They've still got Eric Comrie. I believe Eric Comrie's actually injured, but they still got those goalies. I don't think you rush Devin Levi right away.
No.
Because I think that would honestly ruin his momentum. I think you send him straight to the AHL, get him some games down there, get him some conditioning, get him used to playing against professionals. But yeah, I think Devin Levi is definitely a sleeper pick. But I think if we were picking favorites here, personally, it's got to be Adam Fantilli.
Oh, 100%. You know what? He's averaged 1.88 points per game this year. He broke the record by a freshman. How can you not? How can you not?
He's good enough to play in the NHL today.
He's just that good.
He's good enough to play in the NHL today. Honestly, him and Bedard, they're the two best players. They're the two players that I think could play in the NHL as of right now. Absolutely.
Oh, 100%.
I'm not even gonna go on that. But if we were picking a favorite right now for the 4x4 championship, for the NCAA championship, I personally, it has to be Minnesota.
I'm gonna go with Michigan. I just think they're too good. They're just too good.
Yeah, I can see why you said that, but I mean Minnesota. I believe they beat Michigan yesterday, and honestly, we saw probably one of the greatest goals we've ever seen. It was
I think that's
remarkable.
I've seen a lot of great goals in my 22 years of existence, and that's hands down the best one I've ever seen. Rhett Pitlick absolutely, I don't know who the defender was that he broke his ankles, but just absolutely embarrassed that entire team.
Obviously, Rhett Pitlick, obviously the younger brother of Montreal Canadiens forward Rem Pitlick, if you guys didn't know, pulled off a Bobby Ryan, but he did it 3 times, and he did it through the skates.
Oof. It was thinking about it now, like go and check it out if you haven't already. That's just a clip watching. You can't even describe what it was.
Absolutely. Rhett Pitlick absolutely disrespected that defenseman.
And he's another player to watch out for. Now, before we end off this episode, I wanted to go over our updated top 10 mock draft for this upcoming NHL draft. Now, you may have recalled the last couple of times, that we did it. It was much different. And this time it's going to be a little bit different than before, but there are going to be some names up there that will surprise you. So let's get on with it, shall we?
So at number 10, starting it off, is Colby Barlow from the Owen Sound Attack. Now, Tyler, you've seen him play in person this year with the Steelheads.
Yes.
What can you tell us about Colby Barlow?
There's a couple things that I can say about Colby Barlow. Number one is that he's a good goal scorer. He's got over 40 goals already this season. That's one of his best attributes. He's a fast skater, and his hockey IQ is not that bad. Now, there are a couple of issues with his game, though. Some people call him a lazy player. He doesn't back check that much. He needs a lot of work in the defensive end, and I think that that's kind of one of the drawbacks. But I still think regardless of those, when he puts in that work, he's going to be a top 10 pick, absolutely. So I think that Barlow is one of those guys that you're going to want on your team. And with a little bit more attention to detail, he's hands down. We saw that with not Trevor Zegras, Mason McTavish. They picked him at number 2. He wasn't that great defensively. He was a good goal scorer, but there wasn't much else there. What happened? He went back to Peterborough, they developed him, and he became an elite player.
Absolutely. Number 9 here, we have Dalibor Dvorsky from Hockey Allsvenskan. Honestly, he's been playing very good this season. What I can tell you about him is very good puck handler. He's got a big body, has an incredible two-way game. He can definitely dish the puck. And honestly, his skating definitely needs some work. But I think he could definitely work on that. And whatever NHL team gets him, I think you're getting a top 6 center. Absolutely. And honestly, I could see there's a lot of players that I can compare him to, but there's not really like a certain player that I can really compare him to. But he's definitely got a lot of flair into this in his game. And I really like Dalibor Dvorsky. Definitely going to be a top prospect in this draft. Honestly, I think he's like one of the most underrated players in this draft. And if you were looking like a year ago, if you were to talk to me like a year ago, I'd say he's probably like a top 5 pick. Now that's not the case, but I think he's still going to be an incredible player
See,
nonetheless.
and if you want the definition of a pure power forward, I think Dalibor Dvorsky is exactly that. Because he's one of those guys that just will not let anything slow him down. You know what I mean? He's a guy who can make passes out of nothing.
Reminds me a lot. Actually, you know what? I can't compare him to somebody. He reminds me a lot of Ryan Getzlaf.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny that you mentioned that because the player comparable that comes to mind when I think of Dalibor Dvorsky is Jamie Benn.
Exactly.
He shows a little bit of reminiscence of Jamie Benn.
It's got a little bit of Ryan Getzlaf in him too.
Oh, yeah.
He's got that playmaking ability exactly like Getzlaf. He's got that power forward mentality like Jamie Benn. I think that's a good combination of a player right there. I think he's definitely a lock for a top 6 forward on any team.
100%. Number 8.
Moving into number 8 here, we've got a player that has kind of slipped for us, but honestly, I still think he's a top 10 player for us. Edward Chalet, I think that's how it's pronounced. Edward Saleh, Sale, however you want to pronounce it. Czech forward. He's playing in the Czech league right now. Honestly, he had a kind of a slow World Juniors.
Yeah, his junior tournament was a little bit disappointing, but don't let that distract you from the fact that he's still a very speedy and skilled forward. Because regardless of the fact that people say, oh, he's not great defensively, which may be true, if you develop him a little bit more into a complete player, he's going to play a lot better. But his primary focus is his offensive game. He uses his speed and his skill to outwit the opponents. And that's what we've seen. So I think if he's going to go to any NHL team in the top 10, he's going to be an effective player. Very good top 6. Maybe not that franchise level, but he's definitely going to be a top 6 forward. And the player that I like to compare him to, and it's kind of an interesting situation because there's a couple players that come to mind right off the top of my head, but I'm comparing him to a Mitch Marner type.
Yeah, that's somebody I would compare him to as well. Maybe even William Nylander.
Yeah. Yep.
I would say more Nylander. I see more Nylander in him than I do Marner.
He's got flashes of brilliance.
Yes. I see more Nylander in Chalet than I do with Marner. But I think he's going to be a top line forward for whatever team he goes to. Incredible player. He's just absolutely amazing. At number 7, a player that I am so high on. Tyler can vouch for me on this. I am so high on this guy. It's absolutely unbelievable. Will Smith. Don't get confused to the actor.
Or the baseball player or the football player. There's a million Will Smiths anywhere.
Exactly. But this Will Smith has the best IQ in the draft, and it's not even close.
And he won't slap you at the Oscars if you make a bad joke.
Exactly. But Will Smith, though, playing for the NTDP, he's got 100 points this year in the NTDP.
He kind of came out of nowhere because I remember last year when we were doing our standings, our way too early 2023 mock draft. He wasn't in the first round. He wasn't in the second round, but he was a 3rd round pick. And then he emerged out of absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
Which is incredible.
He's incredible. I say it now. I will say it again. The best hockey IQ in the draft. This guy's hockey IQ is out of this world. I'd say he's even got probably a better hockey mind than, honestly, maybe even Connor Bedard. He's got a very good hockey mind.
Now let's clarify that. So just because he's saying that he's got a better hockey IQ than Bedard does not mean that he's better. So I know a lot of you are probably going to be thinking, what? Did he just say that Will Smith's better than Connor Bedard? No. He said his hockey IQ may be better.
No. I think he's got a better IQ than Connor Bedard. I'd say he's got a better playmaking game. He could definitely pass the puck incredibly well. I mean, this guy could honestly, I'd say he could go as high as maybe even maybe even number 5.
Anything's possible.
We saw it with Cutter Gauthier.
Yep.
I think he could go, honestly, number 5. I really do. I really like him.
Very possible.
Number 6, we have from the Kelowna Rockets of the WHL, Andrew Crystal.
Now he's one of these players, and I've seen him I've seen him play time and time again. And this is a player that you want on your team because he may not be the fastest, he may not be the biggest, but he's an effective, not only power play specialist, but a penalty killer. He's out there blocking shots. He's out there getting involved in the plays. He's that complete player that you want on your roster.
Now, this is the guy that reminds me of Mitch Marner.
Yes.
This
I see that
guy. This is the guy that reminds me of Mitch Marner. Incredible penalty killer. He's very small. He's very deceiving with the puck, and he's an incredible goal scorer as well. He's got incredible goal scorer's touch and with incredible playmaking touch. I mean, he's incredible. I really like the way Andrew Crystal plays. Do I think he's going to go number 6 personally? Maybe not, but I would rank him this high because of the way he's able to play and the fact that he reminds me a lot of Mitch Marner, a left-handed Mitch Marner.
Yep.
Moving into here at number 5 from the Winnipeg Ice of the Western Hockey League, Zach Benson.
Zach Benson's a guy that can take control of a game in 0.2 seconds. Like, we've seen him use his ungodly speed, and there's not a whole lot of players that have that in the CHL right now. I think Luke Misa is the only other option that I can really think of when it comes to, like, the super incredible, crazy speed. He can use his speed and his passing to his advantage.
Absolutely. He reminds me a lot of, there's not really like what, maybe a Dylan Larkin. He's very quick.
Yes. Yep. Very quick-witted as well.
Quick-witted. He's got a very, very good release.
98 points in 60 games, by the way. 36 goals and 62 assists.
Yeah. Very good playmaker. Very good playmaker. Yeah, and plus he could play the two-way game.
Yes.
He's not afraid to throw the body for his size. He reminds me a lot of Dylan Larkin. Just very reminiscent.
Yep.
It's like looking in a mirror.
They're both centers. They play a lot of the similar styles. It's like looking in a mirror.
At number 4. Now this player
controversial. This pick is controversial.
It's very controversial, but honestly, you were talking to me. I would probably say I would probably rank him number 3 personally, but honestly, I think number 4 is perfectly fine for him just based off of what I've seen. At number 4, we have Matvei Michkov from the KHL.
27 points in 20 games, I think, in his technical first rookie season in the KHL. Not too bad, but again, the issue with Michkov compared to any other prospects that are in this draft, he's locked up until 2026.
And
with SK St. Petersburg. Oh, no, he got traded. No, he got traded. But
no, he's on loan.
Yep.
He's on loan to Sochi.
So I think that's what a lot of NHL teams are kind of hesitant about, is because he's locked up till then, and teams that, want to kickstart their rebuild are going to want him right away. So I think that's why he's at number 4. But he's a very skilled forward. He kind of reminds me a little bit, and maybe it's different for you, but he kind of reminds me a little bit of an Eric Lindros type, minus the physicality.
Wow. I didn't really think of that. But
he's a less physical version of Eric Lindros because he's that hard-nosed type of player who will dig into the corners and get there.
I would probably say he reminds me a lot of Patrick Kane, just based off of skill set. Guys pulling off Zorro's, Michigan's, whatever you like to call it. He's pulling off Michigan's left, right, and center. The guy scores a lot.
Yeah, so
the puck very well.
And that's what I mean, because Eric Lindros, if you recall, he had that similar type of flashy style as well, right? That's what Patrick Kane modeled his game after. So, yeah, he was very physical as well, but that's why I'm comparing him to a less physical Eric Lindros, because he was very flashy. He knew the right places to go, and plus he was able to get in there and do his thing.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you on that. I mean, didn't really think of that. A less physical Eric Lindros. I didn't really think of that until now. Honestly, I could definitely see that. I definitely see your point on that. Absolutely. But another thing too, I could definitely see him playing on that top line for St. Petersburg, maybe even like next year. Maybe, I don't know, maybe not the top line, but
in their top six for sure.
In their top six, absolutely.
All right, number 3, Leo Carlsson.
Leo Carlsson, the super Swede.
Boy, oh boy, what a treat to watch him play.
Absolutely, I really like him. I really like the way he plays. He plays a very good power forward type game. And you know who I saw this somewhere. I don't know where I saw this. Maybe it was from Budden or something. I don't know who said this. But when they said this, my ears perked up because I was like, wow, that totally reminds me of him. He reminds me a lot of a young Jesse Puljujarvi.
Okay. You know what? There's 2 players that come to mind when I think of Leo Carlsson, and that is a mix of, like you said, a young Jesse Puljujarvi and also a young Henrik Zetterberg.
Yeah, that's another player I was going to think of.
Because Zetterberg was, again, one of those guys who had the right shot placements. He wasn't the fastest, but he was still an effective player, especially on the power play, like Leo Carlsson is.
Yeah.
So I think he's a mix of Puljujarvi and Zetterberg.
Yeah. All right, moving in to number 2, Adam Fantilli.
This goes without saying. We talked about how good he is earlier. I think it would be a crime to not rank him at number 2.
Exactly. And I just want to mention, too, Leo Carlsson this year, I believe, has like almost 30 points in the SHL as an 18-year-old, which is absurd.
Incredible.
That's incredible for Leo Carlsson. And, of course, we got to talk about him.
Nobody is shocked about this pick because I think it's been coming. See, and there's a funny story about this guy. So obviously, number 1, Connor Bedard. Like, you can't. Nobody else is going first overall. It's not even close.
No, it's Connor Bedard's draft.
See, there was something that I saw on NHL on TNT the other night. They were asking him, have you heard much about the draft, and have you been talked about it and stuff like that? And I cannot believe he said this with a straight face. It made my eyes go wide and my jaw drop. He said, "No, I haven't really thought about it because I need to prove myself." You proved yourself. What do you mean?
And you want to know a really fun fact about Connor Bedard? He hasn't eaten any fast food in his lifetime.
Not at all. But
his mother said that. I'm like, I don't know if I believe that or not.
The fact
he didn't. Wow.
The fact that he says that he needs to prove himself. I don't know if he was joking, but he said it with a straight face. I don't know if he was joking, but he definitely does not.
Rain said this to me as well. He said, Connor Bedard has the right words to say to the media.
Yeah.
You saw it in the World Juniors when they won gold. They said, like, I don't want to talk about me. I want to talk about this great team.
He's very humble.
He is very humble. He doesn't think about himself. He's a genuine person.
100%. And he's going to be something super special. Now, I'm not going to say anything too far-fetched quite yet because, obviously he's got a lot to prove in the NHL level, at the NHL level, to really, I guess, start considering him as one of the best of all time. But I think he's got potential to get there.
It's going to be, we're looking at the battle of the Connors.
Oh, yeah. Connor McDavid versus Connor Bedard. Oh, and by the way, I wanted to point something out as well. For those who don't know, Gavin McKenna, who was the first overall pick in the Bantam draft this past season, is Connor Bedard's cousin. And if you don't know how good Gavin McKenna is, go look him up, because I had to ask myself.
I actually told Reigns this. He was like, what?
I had to ask myself. I genuinely had to ask myself, what is his family eating? What are they feeding these kids? Like, what are they feeding their kids?
And obviously, if you don't know, Gavin McKenna is going to be playing for the Medicine Hat Tigers next year. Can't wait to see him play. But he is projected for the 2026 NHL entry draft.
Yep.
2026. That is insane.
And
it's only 3 years away.
It's so crazy to think that, number one, those two are related, and number two, that they are both kind of reaching that superstar phenom level at the junior level. So, but those were our top 10, and I think this is going to be very interesting. We'll obviously do a full first round coming up when the draft lottery concludes. It's coming up in May. So we'll probably be doing our first round, full first round, top 32, somewhere around there. But I think this is pretty good. And we're also going to have a part 2 doing our playoff predictions, which is going to be pretty fun too. So you can tune in after this one, and we will definitely be talking about that. But in case you haven't already done so, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit the little bell notification for all future content, and don't forget to follow us on our social medias down below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to share it with your friends, share it with your family, and get them to subscribe as well. I'm Tyler Rains, along with Cameron Reeser, and we'll see you in the next one.